accomplishments the school has had, their wonderful teachers, and all the nice students.
So, tell me more about your role at HTHI.
Yes, so my role here at International is basically guiding students through the college application process and what leads up to it. So more so the prepping portion for the younger classes for 9th, 10th, and 11th. And as we segue into the halfway mark of the junior year, it's really a lot about getting PSAT results back and reviewing or assessing what you've done to that point and how you're doing. And after that, I think we present game plans to our students and we talk to them about how they could improve their test scores. Because it's a major criteria used that's, I guess, to evaluate students as they're going into college. But the educational piece building up to it is just as important, making sure that they understand their opportunities. Kind of guiding through that process, kind of acting as like a Sherpa or someone who leads students to the information that they need. And throughout the course of the year, making sure that they get information when they need it. To lead them towards first the educational piece about what college means, what college is, how you get there, where you're at assessment-wise, mainly during our junior year as of right now, and then senior year it's about the process of actually submitting applications and whatnot. So for the most part, really, I am a guide to get students to the information they need to apply to schools.
What are you looking at?
Why did you apply to HTHI and what made you want to work here?
Yeah, I actually decided to become a teacher about 5 years ago. So before that I was working in basically in the chemical science industry, mostly developing educational materials for science education. At the time I decided that I wasn't really able to develop the kinds of software and curriculum that I was trying to develop because I didn't really understand what the problems were for the teachers in the classroom. So I decided to go back and get a teaching credential and check it out for myself. And then I discovered HTHI and realized that this was such a unique environment. And it really gave teachers the opportunity to try new things, to experiment, to develop their own curriculum, which is something I didn't really expect, that kind of freedom in a school. So I sort of decided at that point that if I came to a school like HTHI, I probably wouldn't need to go back to my previous job because this is what I love doing. I love developing new curriculum. I love developing new ideas and trying things out on kids. It's like before I sort of did it theoretically, but when I came to HTHI, I actually had a laboratory where I could do those kinds of experiments. And that's what I love doing, so it was a perfect fit for me.
What do you want to make most out of your students when it comes to learning?
Yeah, I think the two most important things that students can get out of an education is one, they can learn how to solve interesting problems. I don't think you really learn anything unless you're engaged and interested in what you're doing. And unless you're actually solving a problem, I don't think you're really making any progress. And it needs to be, and sometimes that works out of a book, out of a standard curriculum in a traditional high school or something. You do get problems to solve all the time. They may not be very interesting to the students, and so they're not engaged, and that's not a permanent kind of learning that they really get something out of. So as a teacher, when I try to design a curriculum, design a class, design a problem, I want to make it first interesting, secondly significant, something meaningful, something authentic, something that's a real problem that they will have a good chance of either seeing or experiencing in the world around them. The second thing I think that really is important in schools and which is often ignored is leadership. How do you teach students how to be leaders? How do you teach them to take initiative? How do you teach them to take responsibility, to work with others, to plan, to budget their time and their resources? These are all sort of general workplace skills that successful people in the world somehow acquire, but they usually don't do it in school. And this is, I think, a really unique environment where we can build those kinds of schools, develop those kinds of skills within the curriculum that we have.
Tell me more about projects you worked on with students.
Until this year, I was actually the chemistry teacher here. So for the last 4 years, I've been teaching chemistry. This is my first year actually teaching engineering. We're just about to start our first set of real large projects in my engineering class, so I can't really talk about that yet. But as a chemistry teacher, I think one of our most popular projects were, well, we had a soap making project. So for a month we will actually make all different kinds of soap out of fat and lye, sort of the traditional soap making process. And then around that process we also develop skills in terms of running a business. So they learn how to budget, the whole budgeting process of when you're manufacturing something, how much your raw materials cost, how much does your labor cost. We actually build little companies around each of these soaps, and they create advertising campaigns for those soaps, and they do market surveys to find what kind of soap and what kind of price point these soaps should be sold at. So that's always I think, a real world. They're building a business around a specific chemically manufactured process. Another project which was always fun was our sewer project, where we would learn about how do you purify water. And we would actually start at the beginning of the week with just throw all kinds of stuff into water to make it filthy. And at the end of the week, as we take it through the process of filtering and sedimentation and putting bugs in it to eat up all the organic stuff, and filtering all that and killing the bugs, taking the bugs out, the whole process of, by the end of the week you had a jar of pure, clean, you couldn't tell the water from tap water. Even though we started at the beginning of the week, it was just almost, you couldn't see through, it was so black and yucky. So that's always a good week too for that project.
So it was a weird, I didn't really apply here. I was doing my student teaching at San Diego State, and I chose to be in a certain block. They got different learning blocks, and one of them entitled the San Diego School District, and one of the options for student teaching was HTHI. And family members came here, and they told me about it, and it was really unique. The stories they would tell me, how the interaction between student and teacher, how it was just unbelievable. So I wanted to check it out for myself. So when I was at San Diego State, I was like, might as well go there to see if it works, or see how it works. And I got here because of that. And then when I was doing my student teacher, the 11th grade math teacher went to Thailand to teach there for a whole year. And she left during May of last year, and they told me if I wanted to be a long-term sub for the remainder of the year. And I accepted, and then when the school year ended, they just told me if I wanted to teach here for the next year, since they don't have they have 1-year contracts. And I was like, sure, that works. It's a unique school, and that's how I ended up applying here. It's more like I fell into the job. And I teach math, 11th grade math, and even though I am teaching them math and it is rigorously in math, I really do push them to be independent learners. When I started teaching here last year, the students were so dependent on the teacher to give them the right answers. It was like they were trying to make, you had to hold their hands so they can guide them through questions. And my main thing that I'm trying to teach them is problem solving your way through things, being your own independent learner, you seeking your own resources, seeking your own answers. I provide them the answers when I give them the problems. I give them resources like Khan Academy, ST Math websites. We got a couple programs that help them figure out problems, and I really do push them to do that before they come to me, or ask the person sitting next to me before they come to me, or try to figure out with the people around them before they come to me. I discourage them to ask me questions if I'm the first person they're asking. What the thing is, the main goal when you get to college is you have to be an independent learner. You have to be an independent thinker. and you got to go about it your own way. You can't depend on the teacher to guide you through everything. And that's what my main goal is for this class, even though it is a math class. And comparing my high school days, if I can go back to high school, if I had a choice between regular high school and this high school, I went through a couple different high schools. I dropped out twice out of high school. But if I had a choice, I don't know if this high school would be a right fit for me, because the more freedom I had, the more choice I would have. I always made the wrong decision when I was younger. I needed way more rules than the average student. And that's the beauty about this place. The students, I think since you go through the whole system, since you're young, middle school, they start maybe elementary, even kindergarten, I think they start developing skills that you need as an adult when they're teenagers. And I know I didn't have those skills at all. I couldn't manage my time. I didn't make the right decisions. I had no clue what I was doing when I was in high school. I couldn't even tell you if I was going to graduate high school. If you put me in a place like this, with all the freedom the kids have, I think I'll be the student trying to exploit it and push it to the limit and always try to get away with everything. But that was just me back then, so I know that wouldn't work for me. I ended up going to a 60 students was the high school. 30 seniors and 30 juniors, no freshmen and sophomores, and I ended up getting my high school diploma from there. But it wasn't a traditional high school. I got kicked out of all the traditional high schools, or I kicked out myself. I only been here this is my first year teaching, and I was here last year as a long-term sub, and I only done 3 projects so far. One of them was a probability game of life, where the students developed with their future, and they did the probability of an average human being getting there off of census data and all the data they can gather from the internet. And they chose anything from being athletes, professional athletes, being doctors, some of the kids were looking into getting into the correctional facility and being either just the CO staff or being the warden of the place. And then another project that I did this year, it was a joint project with history and art. We did a 2013 debate mock election where Barack Obama and Romney, where students got elected themselves, one person per class, as either to be Barack Obama, one to be Romney, and they actually had an election, they had a debate, and it was like the real thing here at HTHI. And the math portion of it was to create samples and datas from like surveys that we did. We made the questions, we took it out to the whole high school, we got them back, we collected the data, we showed the data, and then we came up with images that represented the data without saying like 84% of you think this. We try to incorporate images, the power of images to persuade people's feelings, since we were trying to argue controversial topics like immigration or abortion or immigration, and we're trying to use the power of an image to sway you from here and there without really seeing numbers, the numbers being the second thing you see. But they were just trying to win the debate, and that's how my role in that project was. And then I'm doing just a sole math project where they have to create a cheat sheet for the SAT. There's just step-by-step procedures on how to do any type of algebra problem or any type of exponent problems. And it's a general way, no examples, it's just like English. Do this, step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3. And that, I guess, goes into how am I preparing them for college. I really don't, I have my certain views in the SAT, and a lot of people are thinking that the SAT won't exist in a couple years. But it's a reality, at least for this class, for the class that's going to graduate in 2014 from high school, and they have to prepare themselves for that test. And they're not used to taking time tests. They're not used to